there, and we are back with the roundtable. This time we are focusing on the Asian and European perspective. With us, Felix as always, and also I'm very happy to see Mr. Jürg Kihm here.
Thank you.
Yes. Jürg, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Well, thanks first of all for having me. Secondly, my background, I've been a while around in floorball. It's year 37 as a coach, so I'm kind of oldish. Anyway, I think I had the joy that I lived 5 years in Australia, so I know kind of the needs and the demands and the issues for the developing country. Even that's a long time ago. But then before that time, but also after that time in Australia, I have and still do my experience in Switzerland, highest league on now for the last 3 years in youth, with under 18, under 14. And thanks to floorball I got around like also here. I think it's my 4th time here to Singapore floorball. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, you've been here, like you said, at least 4 times now, and you've seen the development. As a person that actually, well, first of all, you are Swiss, even though you have a unique experience being in Australia, being around. I think you've been to many other parts through IFF with seminars and everything. How do you feel from your perspective? How is the Asian floorball growing in general, and what could we do to improve it even more?
I think Asia is definitely improving in high pace. I was also this year and 4 years ago, this year in North America, 5 years ago in Africa, so I think from all the continents outside of Europe, it's definitely Asia, which is definitely the biggest steps forward. It was interesting listening to your roundtable yesterday, or the first day actually, and I'm fully with you. I think overall the improvement in most countries, most clubs, most teams, most players is definitely here. In particular also, like you pointed out, the individual stick skills, they're pretty decent, they're pretty okay. Some are actually, I think, even brilliant, so from a skills perspective, I think you could even take it into top players in Europe. Fitness, some more, some less, but overall improving. And then we come to the big, for me, most important topic: how you structure everything successfully on the court. When not just handling this ball by yourself, but how do you connect those 5 players with a similar game understanding, similar game plan, doing the little things right? And I think that's big challenge for the local coaches here. That's a big challenge from a worldwide perspective. How do we lift this gap? There's an IFF project group. I think I closed the gap. I'm not part of it. I don't know what their plans are, but I have my thoughts about it. So you probably have the same, and you as well. You both have been around as well. So I think that's really the biggest challenge. How do we make other countries, and I take now worldwide perspective, how do we make other countries better to connect as a unit successfully?
I agree 100%. Like the biggest gap is game understanding, game management, defensive positions when you're on the ball, or offensive positions when you're without the ball, like trying to get a deeper understanding of the game. It's the biggest challenge for coaches, it's the hardest to teach, and you can't really work on it all by yourself. So you have to do a high level practices for a long time in order to improve. You have to play a lot, do more practices, and you have to have more experience from international settings, trying to be... The SGOpen, for example, is really, really interesting because a lot of the Asian teams are really starting to get on the same level as in terms of fitness and skills. They're getting punished over and over again because of the game understanding of the Swiss teams, the Swedish teams, the Czech teams. It can appear to be quite an even game sometimes. The final score is Swedish or hard to understand because the little small decisions all over the court that's making a difference. And closing that gap is a huge challenge, but I'm looking forward to see how it's done because the motivation is here, the resources are here, so it's gonna happen.
I'm trying to do it for 20 years, not to help. But it's not one person who can always solve it. But if I might share another example, we were here on Wednesday morning and you brought some of your former colleagues from Pittsburgh with you, and we had some shooting and you recorded some shooting. And I luckily was able to join, and then I had a quick chat with Philipp Randemark, who is one of the top 3 centers in the Swedish national team. And I would like to share that example because he considers himself as an optimal two-way center, or rather defensive center. So I had an interview with him and asked, so what does it make you a defensive center, and how do you see the space where to go? And then it's exactly what you said, it's so difficult to explain. So he's one of the top centers in the world, and he was challenged or struggling to describe it in words. Because he's just doing it because he has done thousands of training on fights, on games. And I try to tap in his experience also in yours, but sometimes for the players it's also very difficult to explain it in a way that a coach can take it on board and then transfer it in a meaningful way to a team of 20 players. So I think that's also a part of the challenge. I mean, probably if I would ask you, how do you score your goals? You go, some you know and some you just do. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really hard. I can tell there's been jumps in my development that I've recognized, and I can sort of go to those places, the positioning of the awareness of your positioning towards the goal and stuff like that. But most of it comes like naturally from just playing floorball, right? So you have to gain experience teaching floorball and know the obstacles and try to make sense out of what is this player lacking in terms of knowledge. It's a really hard question to ask. You can be really good at it, and if you do like a lot of intercontinental meetings between coaches and players, you can maybe get a little bit closer to understanding how to close the gap. And I feel like international tournaments, international training camps, and seminars where you can share experience between countries is the way forward, because bringing a Swedish player is never an operation. Trying to teach floorball here, it's a big challenge, but yeah, you gotta make those meetings be effective, and we need to do more of it.
I couldn't agree less. I still have 2 additions maybe, which particularly I think sometimes we Europeans forget. So one thing I only realized kind of halfway through my time in Australia, and even actually stronger belief now when I got my own kids, it is many juniors who start playing in Asia, they can't go to a live game with proper highest level quality. In Sweden, probably before you have played your first SSL game, you probably have seen, I don't know, 50, 100 SSL games. And this didn't struck my mind, but if you can't see it how it's properly done, it's so more difficult. And I like to share an example with my kids. They started with 5 or 6, and then I took them to the highest league training, and then they had the first game, and they pushed everyone in the back like this, like they do in the highest league. Referee called it, and they go to me, but Daddy, that's what you do at training and at the games. And I was like, yes, but it's not allowed, even not in Switzerland. But exactly, the kids, they're easy to learn in that age. They pick it up, and then they learn it. And the second thing, I think too many of us coaches who are coming to Asian teams do one mistake, and which I did 2 World Championships as well, is you come in and think, oh, they don't know defense, they don't know 3 against 2, they don't know how to defend 3 against 2, power play, box play, opening moves, and then you want to tackle everything. And then you get lost, because a national player in the top European countries, that was a development over 10 years. And now we coach coming in and see there's 20 points missing, and we try to tackle a little bit here, a little bit there. And I think that's also kind of rather be distracting for the players. I rather would say, let's focus on 2, 3 main things, maybe from campaign to campaign. But I think I see that from my perspective, that's just my opinion, too often that we want to fix everything. And we can't fix everything what we do in 10 years. It's just, I believe it's just impossible.
It's interesting you all started talking about
Sorry.
this. No, which is great. No, that's great. I should be up. But we actually have one segment called F&F Perspective where we will actually go a little bit further into these situations and try to find sequences from the European games where, okay, there's a nice goal, but why did it happen? How did it happen? And that's where someone like Philip Brandemeier, for instance, that usually is actually the catalyst, the one that starts, he wins the ball, and then quickly he will distribute it, and that's where the 3 versus 2 or an offensive transition actually happens. It's also, everyone always says, who's the best player in the world? You have these different people, right? Everyone says Leo Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo. I always said Paolo Maldini, because they can't be good unless the players behind are good.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now let's add one more thing about development in Asia is that I really feel like there's a gap between the definition of technical ability is really, really different. Because I go here and talk to players and I say, who's the most technical player you know? And they're always talking about someone doing crazy stuff with the stick. They're always talking about players showing off skills like it's an all-star game all season type of player. And I would say that if you look at the difference between the Swiss, Czech and Swedish teams this campaign, this year in SGOpen, is that I would say the technical ability of the European players are more defined in terms of when is the ball playable after you receive it. Like I see Philip Brandemeier, for example, talking a lot about him, but he's a really technical player without doing any crazy stuff, because he's running full pace, receiving the ball, and he's playable like in microseconds. Like he's playing with one touch and he can make a shot, a pass, everything on the ball. There's a big difference because I feel like the players who are lacking this ability, they are looking at the ball, they take a lot of touches, might be nice touches, they are like really good hands, like stick handling is alright, but it takes a lot of time. Yeah,
it's useless.
It's basically useless in high-paced situations. You need one touch and you need to play the ball, you need to be able to make a decision on whether to pass or shoot. And it's the definition of technical ability here needs to be a little bit shifted, I think, in order to be able to play in the highest divisions in Europe or compete at the international level with the top nations. And that is just one thing I'm really motivated to work on and see how can you make drills, how can you set up instructions for players to be able to improve their technical ability in another way and compared to what they're usually focusing on.
So it's about exposure, about actually experiencing all these kind of things, which they are doing in Israel. They get a chance to play. Kind of, would you agree that it's a 3 different types of styles with the Swiss team, actually the Czech team, and the Swedish team in a way, and they're lucky enough to actually get it. Like the Swiss so far has been, to me, the really efficient. You know, when they have, it starts with a goalkeeper who's amazing, and then they are really efficient throughout. Swedes are controlling the play a little bit more perhaps, and then you've got the Czechs that are almost playing like their ice hockey old school style, where they are a little bit waiting for mistakes and then they come in offensive transitions.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know if many of you know about the Czech hockey history, but it's so telling that every time you see a Czech team go up against a better team on paper, they're super solid. They allow shots from far away, and they go for counter attacks, and they go really hard on the forecheck. They're pressuring. With the Swiss team, it's not more control. Like they play like a slower type of game. It's really smart. They have longer passes. They can pause the gameplay. So I would say that Sweden is somewhere in between. Like Sweden is a little bit more fast-paced, physical than Swiss, but they're not as hard as the Czech team. So the Asian teams facing is a little bit different, and it's a really good experience.
For me, what you mentioned before that is all those 3 teams here, they have all in common they know more or less when to apply what technique, what move.
Yeah.
So that, and I think that's the key thing, even if they have different styles. And they know now, does it go fast? Should I not lose the ball? Do I keep the ball? Do I dribbling, make a pass, a shot? Do I slow down, increase? All these things. But as we talked before, you just do it. And sometimes you're not even aware. And so, but yeah, it's what, when you try to distinguish the technical approach, I think this is really where Asia is working on and has to continue to work on. And personally, I believe, from my perspective, almost the only 2 ways to make it better, or 3 ways, is have tournaments like here, Singapore Floorball Open, have one or the other player who can make it to Europe, and have someone with experience and, as coach, probably willingness to travel somewhere to Asia and stay there, not just a week or 2, ideally a year, 2 years. I think these 3, from my perspective, are the most promising, unless we would get big sponsors, but that's not happening. So again, now we sent a Singaporean team 2 years to Sweden, and then we have the visa issue. That's another topic. So I think, but that's why I believe it's this exchange of gaining more experience. And also very often people, I think, also forget that you need to continue to develop your local league. So if you have 20 national players, then maybe you're for 2-3 years really good, and then they retire for whatever reason, and then everything drops again. I think this is also must go hand in hand.
So that's the development on the playing side. I assume it's the same when it comes to the refereeing side, which because the better the players get, hopefully the same thing happens to referees. We are having some referees from other countries here for development purposes, which is great. It's one of the things that we want to do. We want everyone to experience SGOpen, which means that to play against European teams, but also for the referees. Today we had some shocking decisions in some of the games from the referees, but again, it's the only way to learn is to actually experience that part, and that's what we're all about. How do you see? How is the refereeing? Because I think from the side here in Singapore, I can only speak for Singapore. It's kind of hard for them to get refs, because the refs are usually players. So they're players and then refs. So you don't really have many that are strictly refs. Is that something that is common in Europe too, or
no? I don't know if I played at too high of a level for a long time, but I feel like the referees in Sweden is super professional.
Highest level.
The highest level. I don't really know about the lower divisions. It's really not. I don't have that so many examples, but I feel like the refereeing level in Sweden is really good, and I'm positive it's the same in Division 2 at least. There's not. I would say that we should continue to bring referees from different parts of the world together, I guess, to exchange experience, get into, to give Australian referees experience here is a great thing. It really is, because it's going to boost their development and it's going to boost the referee level on all continents. But I feel like the refereeing in Sweden, it can be an example, I think, for Asia, because there's a lot of referees that are good communicators as well as good refs. Quite good understanding of the game. Even though I've shouted at referees all my life, but that's a me problem.
Swedish problem.
Swedish problem might be.
Sorry. But that's why we have no rule changes to Sweden anyway for the upcoming seasons. Overall I'm completely with you. I think yes, in the top nations or countries where you have in the top leagues, they usually have top refs which are doing much else. I think in the lower league at least, where I still train for fun, some people are still reffing, and I'm pretty sure in countries in Asia. There's many who do actually all the three, coaching, playing and refereeing. As very often they have biggest interest or most knowledge, most experience, so they kind of sign up or volunteer for all the three roles. Yeah, for me as well, refereeing has to develop. Where to start is definitely a tournament like here. That's definitely not sure if federations can help more, come here. If the international federation could come over here, and so yeah. But as everything, it takes time and this step-by-step approach. But I think at the moment the development of the play of the game is faster than the development of the referees. Here.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. Other than that, Jürg will be our voice from the Alps in the future. He will talk more about the Swiss news and what's happening over there in Switzerland. Right now, we got a World Cup coming up in December. How do you guys? I mean, I know maybe I'm just throwing this question out there because I thought of it just now. That how do you think the teams look at the moment? It's hard.
Can I start? I think Sweden wants obviously the world champion title back. Got from their perspective stolen on their home soil. So I think everyone expecting a Finland-Sweden final. Once more is now probably the third championship. I'm kind of really wondering when has Czechia the big surprise. I think they're a high quality side. When do they do the big surprise and manage to take the top spot? If not, if they're already ready or not, I don't know. I think Switzerland has to overcome the fear of Latvia in the group stage. Yeah, let's see. But maybe also to summarize, I still believe that the top 4 or 5 nations, they still develop faster and more and better than all the other nations. And therefore I think as long as this is the case, it's super difficult actually to close the gap.
Yeah. So in terms of Sweden, I think that Sweden has the strongest squad. I think it's better than Finland, I think it's better than Czechia, I think it's better than Switzerland. But I also think they have the best coach. I feel like the challenge for Sweden is to try to give responsibility to the right players and try to, you will be in charge of this, because there's a lot of competition in Sweden. There's a lot of players that actually can do a lot of different things. But I feel like Thomas Brockman can really put the players in like build a team that's going to be really effective, so the Swedish team can take advantage of all the skills that are in the team. But it is a challenge, and I would say that Czechia they have a little bit easier of a challenge because the team is more similar as it was been before. I think if they play together in the clubs a bit more, I think they know each other better than Swedish players are. So I'm always saying that Czechia is the dark horse of the tournament. Because I love the first line is the best line in the world. I really feel like it is. Maybe not the best individual players, but in terms of how they play together, I would put them on for like 35 minutes if they played against Sweden. And because they can really rest on the ball, even when they're playing with.
But you don't know if Bener's knee is good enough.
That can always happen. But now I'm counting on everyone playing, and then I would say the first line is probably the line of the game against Sweden. I don't know if it will be enough. I feel like Jon Hedlund is better than Thomas Jürgen and more experience from the highest level. So I would say that the Swedes have an advantage in that position. But I feel like Czechia can really put up a fight. And then Finland, not so much. I think they're really lacking some of the skills that Sweden and Czechia are. Swiss, not enough to compete. I don't think they will probably finish for maybe 3rd place, but I don't really know. I feel like Czechia and Sweden are the ones who can go for gold. It will probably be a final against Czechia for Sweden. And I think Sweden will come out on top, but it's going to be a tight.
Two things. Latvia. You mentioned Czechia is relatively long together, so is Latvian fans.
Yeah, I would for sure not count them out. I would rule them out for a gold medal, but I wouldn't rule them out for a bronze medal. And I think it's possible that they win the semi-final. Yeah, but I feel like...
Wait, are we talking about Latvia?
Yeah, Latvia is an awesome team. Okay, really good. But to me, they're underdogs against the top 4. But they can really do the gap is really narrow nowadays.
So that means that technically Latvia is improving then?
Latvia is in front of Switzerland at the moment, according to the international ranking.
Okay. And then you have Slovakia. How is it in Slovakia?
Yeah, Slovakia, Germany is probably then the next two. Sometimes Norway, but Norway is, for me, is lacking the next step somehow. Slovakia, I've seen them in the qualifiers. They had brilliant round games. Then they faced Sweden. After I think 9 minutes, it was 3-0 for Sweden. Game over. So yeah, long way to go. Promising stuff coming up.
I would just bring up one thing. Last World Cup when Sweden played Czechia, they had an individual performance by Malte Lundmark who scored the opening goal quite early. That's like, you have to have game-deciding goals if you want to win, and that's true for all teams. And if Czechia does it this time, it's going to be really hard for the other teams to catch up. I think. But for now, I think Malte Lundmark is the best player in the world, best forward in the world, and he did it like really important stuff against Czechia. But there's nothing that I can easily see Ondrej Nemechenko or Havlas or someone doing that for Czechia, and then it might be the other way around this year. And it's also true for Finland and Switzerland and Latvia, of course, but I feel like Sweden's the favorite.
Can I challenge?
Yes, go ahead.
Why is Malte Lundmark better than Ulriksson?
To me,
for example.
Ulriksson is the most intense player. He's got probably the fastest player. He scores a lot. He can score in different ways. Malte Lundmark controls the game a little bit better. So he can pass the game. He's the most like...
is he a playmaker, old school, like he decides to go fast as well?
Yeah, for sure. So he goes to forehand, backhand, he just runs down the opposing team. He can decide when to go for backhand pass, try to challenge the post, try to make low, or he can just turn around, go for the forehand, go by the boards and just set up offensive plays. And to me that's a little bit more impressive, and it's really useful to create offensive pressure in the top game. So I'm always saying that Malte Lundmark should be playing against the top line of the opposing team, because he's the one who controls the game the best, because his decision making is by far better than Ulriksson. Even though Ulriksson might be more useful in terms of beating players with speed and like counterattacks, I would say Ulriksson is a completely different player. I would just prefer to have Lundmark. I would prefer to have, if I can only choose one, because I feel like he controls the game so much and he scores a lot. Really top scorer.
If we make the link back to our first topic, development, and do you know Malte personally? Like, do you know? I don't know him. That's why I'm asking. Like, when you say he's so strong in decision making, do you know if that's something which is happening deliberately for him, or is it just he has it done 7,000 times and it's just happening? Or is it something he reflects on? Do you know that? Because that would be interesting to know.
Yeah, I would say that he definitely could reflect on this, even though it's come naturally. But I think he's been the best player of his team all his life. That's at least what I'm positive he's been, because he's that type of talent. But I'm also confident to say that he has been in charge of the offensive structure in Finland from a young age, and now he's been playing a lot of years now. So I would say that he's learned a lot, and he's been at this age he's in a position where he can teach the other players and be in charge of the offensive plays for sure. Because it's quite telling when you watch him play that this guy knows all about how to put pressure on the defense.
Have you experienced the attitude from young players in Sweden? Is it here that they're listening to an experienced and skillful player like Lundmark, or is it like sometimes young people do. Oh, okay, I do my own way. Or do you know how that is done in Sweden?
It's a really difficult question because it really depends on the individual. I've seen both, so to me it's like I don't know, and it's quite hard for me to see the changes throughout the years as well. Because I've been for 37 years in coaching, right? So thanks. I will be though. but I feel like for players who come up, which they are really talented, they could come up just because of the great talent. But I think those who will succeed are the ones who listening, willing to accept that they don't know everything, and if they can listen to players like the top players in the national teams, it will help them a lot because the experience is important in terms of understanding of the game for sure.
Again, just quick recap, we will have segments where we not just talk about and show clips of players, we will also try to have Zoom calls where we talk to them to get to know them a little bit more and see, and this would be a great example. If we could get someone like Malte and just ask these questions, when did he, or has it always been there, or was it at a certain age where it suddenly clicked? Regarding that, back to the Czech, it's almost like similar to Belgium in football, like the golden generation or another one, anything. I mean, for the Czechs, they had their golden youth generation that now are getting a little bit older, and it's almost like it's time soon for them to actually go through and win it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, they won 2 times the under 19. I think that was probably first time also, almost 10 years ago. Yeah, look, where I fully agree with Felix, where Sweden has biggest advantage from my perspective. They have so many players they have dozens of players who play every week or weekend on the best possible club level, and therefore you would hope you find always top 20 which can compete for gold. And from a Czechia perspective, there, I think sometimes you need then also a little bit luck. Even I don't like that word so much, but you really actually need sometimes. And for me, the other key thing which we haven't actually talked, but I think if you really want to succeed, you need also a perfectly working team chemistry within the team. You need a lot of stuff nowadays to help you with videos like this and that. I'm pretty sure all those top nations that they on top spot in all those regards. But sometimes it's these tiny things. And if you go back to Sweden, Malmö 24, I think it was not an easy campaign. Those things were happening, crazy stuff going on apparently before the championship. Not sure if I think they just announced before the championship, coaches will not continue. Does that help or not? I don't know. But sometimes I felt like in the final, when it matters, that we would stay together and fight to the very last inch. Maybe because we didn't have that beer together 2 weeks before the tournament. We didn't do it. I don't know. It's just a gut feeling from the outside that sometimes these little things. That was always easy in Australia, to share another example.
Yeah.
You in the pre-training camp, you go one night out, didn't matter if the male or the female, you have a good night out together, and then the team atmosphere is working.
Yeah. Is it important? Very important.
From my perspective, when I coached, I always felt, when I was looking at the World Cups, and I felt that Sweden actually, they were so good for a long time that they got away with things that because the other teams were not at the same stage. And one of the things that we touched on it just now is that when Sweden picks their 15-20 players, are they looking at for line 1, line 2, line 3? Or are they just saying, okay, we're going to take the 15 best players that we have, and then you have an issue with on your 3rd line and your 4th line, you put in players that usually is a first-line player for their respective teams, and now they're having a role where maybe they take a few shifts every period. How do you do that? Should you do it more like a club team, which I feel like the Finns have been a little bit better with that. They know exactly they have a line 1, they have line 2, and then they have a line 3 with, that is a little bit like you said, they will run and just fight and just try to let the other 2 good lines or the better lines rest a little bit. How do you feel about that?
There's probably 2 different opinions, a player opinion and the coach opinion. You go for
Yeah, so it's really tough in Sweden if you should leave out some really, really great players, but I think you have to, because not everyone can be on the power play. And I feel like there's the responsibility of the coach is to select the team that's going to perform the best, and it's never going to be the 15 best individual players. The first issue is the position. You can always compare, like, I'm better than him, but yeah, but you've got 4 spots as left defender maximum. You need to be on that, and even if you are, there's your player type of player you are is that you have 2 other guys who's actually better than you, and then they're gonna select the more defensive guy or something. It's always gonna be that, and I feel like Sweden, they definitely need to put players that are at the highest level in terms of stick handling, but it doesn't have to be the very best. So you can't bring guys that enforcers who can't play at all. That would be an insane decision. So there's a little bit of a balance, but I think you really should build a team like Finland's done great. And I feel like the Swedish national team coach really gets this. I feel like he can bring a team that's really structured in a way that they can perform in many type of game situations. But yeah, of course, it's tough on the players that gets to be left out. But yeah, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I agree. But I think what you said is also, which I believe should be accountable also in a club team, not only in international team. And I think it's also the coach's role to, at a certain level, to explain where I see what is your role. Because if you think you play all the power plays, box plays, and you play number 1 right shot, and I think, oh, you may be 3rd line, then one day we will clash. And that day we clash, or maybe we don't even clash, but you will be disappointed, and I will be maybe disappointed. And I think I call it expectations management, is maybe the toughest part for a coach. Because I have to tell him, sorry I destroy your dream, you're not my 1st line, and you're my 3rd line. But I think it's part of a coach's role. And yeah, it should be done, because I think it's nothing worse than during a game, you come to me as example, now I need to play, and now you definitely not play. And then we have an argument. So yeah, I think it's tough, it's hard, but exactly what you managed, how Sweden is possibly doing the role management or picking the players, I think even in junior teams you can already start. It's not that someone is then the whole season on like left wing, 3rd line, but that's not ideal plan from my perspective in the junior group. They need to understand what is kind of role and what is expectation.
For sure. And that's interesting. We will have more coaching corner when it comes with coaches too, not just players and coaches. Lastly, before we leave, let's do a prediction. Let's start with the World Cup. Who do you think is going to win?
I would say Sweden for sure.
Are we talking football or football?
Okay, let's start with well, he said Sweden, so it's floorball, because in football we got destroyed against France. So we start with floorball.
Yeah, unfortunately, no big surprise. Must be one of the top nations. I go with Czech.
What about you?
What about me? I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit of an upset, but I think somehow, Sweden and Finland will play in the semis. And because of that, one of them will, of course, then be out, and it might be one of these normal penalties or something like that, which I wish they took that away for penalties. Just play overtime until one team wins. But that's just, I understand that.
Team doesn't like that.
Yeah, I know, but it's like penalties is, I don't know about that one. But I'm going to say Sweden too. When it comes to, World Cup in football, since we're at it,
I'm gonna say Spain.
Spain.
Yeah, Spain are playing France at this moment. Yeah, in a few days.
France.
France are really good, but I feel like Spain can manage the games a little bit better. I feel like I don't think that Mano Konea or Rabiot or Tchouaméni can handle the game as Pedri and Dani can. So I would say Spain will be. They will have the ball against France, and I would think it would be if they don't counterattack, let up counterattacks. I feel like Spain might be better team. So, and then it's obviously one of those teams going to win because they are at a level like Argentina can never.
They're not getting in the semi.
No, yeah, that Switzerland. I believe that Switzerland will lose to Argentina, but I think Argentina will lose whatever it comes. And Norway and England, really bad performance. In terms of being pretty bad in general in Norway, they're really actually doing good now, but not compared to the other teams that are in the center.
I get it. Okay. What about you, Jürg?
As I know, let's go for the surprise again. Well, upset. Norway or Switzerland?
I'll say it's definitely not coming home. So England is out. I actually think Argentina will win it again. Messi will do one last chance, and they know exactly how to beat these French and defensive-minded teams, and they will do it again. Lastly, SGOpen Invitational. Who is going to win that one?
This is tough. I feel like I'm so impressed by the Czech goalie, and I feel like it really suits their type of game. So if Sweden, they're gonna have a little bit of an issue if they play against the Czech team, because if they lose the ball, they're afraid of counterattacks, and I feel like they might shoot in. They won't go for it as much as they need to beat the goalie. So I feel like I'm really starting to change my mind a little bit, and I would say that Czechia probably will win. Switzerland is good, but I feel like they are a bit too slow. Bunch of too many big guys, I would say. Like these really big size players, and I feel like they might get run over by Czechia and Sweden.
We will see. They play tonight, so that's semi-final. Yeah, of course. As I move to Swiss team, I go for Switzerland, no doubt.
And I'll say Sweden. I keep changing.
We're changing.
Yeah. So if you guys have a chance to watch this today, if it comes out today, come watch tonight. It's going to be some incredible games. Don't miss this chance to see the Swiss, the Czech, and also the Singaporean, Malaysian, New Zealand. They're all. It's been in Hong Kong too. So you have a chance to see all these different types of football, and it's ongoing until Sunday. Don't miss it. And with that, we say bye-bye.
Thank you, bye-bye.